Hello, welcome in or welcome back to my channel. My name is Deb from DG Reads and I'm starting to prep for vacation. At the end of March, just barely over a month from when I'm starting to film this, I am going to be going to South Korea with Becca at Becca in the Books and her Troatrip with a big group of wonderful people, and I'm so looking forward to it. Our trip Discord's been popping with ideas of places to go, where to stay, because I still do have to book a hotel for the first couple of days I'm there before the trip, and I just am really looking forward to this. So I figured in preparation for that, and to get me even more excited, it was a great time to pick up some books by Korean and Korean American, and I might even have a Korean Canadian author in the stack. I'm not sure. I have a lot of ideas and possibilities. I've got a couple books that I've put on hold at the library to head my way, so I'm not sure exactly what my TBR for this is going to be, but I am eager to go ahead and get going, and in fact I have started reading. The first book that I am reading is The Floating World by Axie Oh. This author is Korean American, was born in the United States, but also went to school to study Korean history, so the idea of reading a book with Korean influences from her sounded like a good plan, and this is one that I received from Fairy Loot. It is, of course, a very stunning edition because that's what Fairy Loot does. I love the foiled end papers on this one. And there is a reverse dust jacket as well, if I can get that in the picture. But the end papers are gorgeous, and the naked hardcover as well. This is a YA story. It is following two young people. Ren is a traveling acrobat. She's traveling with her family, but we quickly learn that they're more so her adopted family, and she is going around with them performing and putting on a show. When a demon attacks, it turns very deadly, and she loses a family member. She has her little uncle very injured, not waking up. The other part of this is that she is the one who takes this demon down, and she does so with this light magic she has. She doesn't really understand the magic 100%, although she knows how to use it, but it has very much needed to be kept a secret. So when she hears that this demon seems to have come from the place that she ran away from once upon a time, she takes it upon herself to run off into the night, sneak away, and go to get answers. The other character we're following is Sunho, and he is a former soldier. He lives in the underworld, which is the world of darkness. So very clearly a dichotomy between her light and his darkness in this world, and that theme carries out to the point where I'm at, which is just shy of halfway. And he is someone who is hired on for various jobs. The job he's just taken on is to go find the girl with the light. No one really knows what she looks like, but they have reports of this light having been seen in the place where she defeated the demon with the light. And he, along with many other mercenaries, are after her. Most of them out to kill. In this case, the mercenaries that have been hired alongside him, they're supposed to bring her back alive. We don't know why yet, but he's off to do the job. Of course, these two cross paths. He doesn't recognize her. Nobody knows what she looks like, and she's keeping her magic under wraps, but she kind of does figure out what he's after and what his mission is. And the two are traveling together at this point and becoming closer and friends and sharing their insecurities. I think there have been a lot of good questions about fear. Ren has a lot of paranoias about heights, and she's having to confront those, being part of the floating world, being part of a world that's not underground, that has heights you can fall from. And we kind of find out over time why that is, even though her fears sometimes puts her and the people around her in danger. And Sunho is also helping her talk through these. He's also talking about his history, his ex-soldier history. And so overall, it's a lot of good discussions. I'm finding the world really interesting, the idea of this underworld and this floating world, the world up top, and it's entertaining so far. So this is off to a good start. I am looking forward to continuing on with this, and I'll give you some final thoughts at the end. We are joined by a puppy. Hi, babies. What do you have to say for yourself? I just got home from work, and she is very excited, and I am very cold, hence why I'm still bundled up, even though I'm inside the house now. We're finally getting a little bit of a taste of winter. I mean, it's still Southern California. It's not exactly, snowing outside, but it is a little on the chilly side, and I'm about to go turn the heat on, but I wanted to do an update with you first. And then Kylie demanded to be held. So I'm going to put you down and grab the book and talk to the peoples. Yeah? What are you looking at? You can sit next to me. Don't fall. There we go. Okay, that was the fun part of the update. I finished up The Floating World. And unfortunately, this really didn't work that well for me. I liked it at the beginning. I liked the idea of this world, the kind of good versus evil sort of a thing. The underworld, the floating world are two different characters, the lightness, the dark. I like the idea that this was tied to Korean mythology as I understand it, and the storytelling and kind of the fable and what's real, what's imagined, I guess you would say. But honestly, I feel like it maybe read a little bit on the younger end of a YA spectrum for me personally. I didn't feel the chemistry between our two main characters. And as I got further and further into the book, I kept wondering more and more what the motivations were drawing them together, since I wasn't feeling that chemistry. And upon meeting, when their stories first meet in the book, it becomes the two of them against the world. And I'm not clear what the motivation on either side was, but especially on his side, because he was on a whole different mission and kind of gets derailed a little bit by following her and protecting her. And he doesn't know initially who she is and is telling other people who are out to get her that she's not the one they're all looking for. I didn't 100% get what the motivations were to bring them together, to be traveling together. It's a lot of journeying. It's a lot of telling stories. And I do think there were good discussions about their traumas, about their histories. There was found family aspect. There were definitely positives in here. I just felt like it dragged on a little bit too much. And I didn't feel really connected with our characters, or like there was a ton of depth to our characters. And I really thought the book was wrapping up, and I looked down and there was still 15% of it left to go. And ultimately that's not a good sign. So I don't think I'm going to be continuing on in this. It definitely leaves on cliffhangers. It definitely leaves a lot to be further developed and resolved in the follow-up book. But I don't think it's going to be for me. So unfortunately, I thought this was going much better at the midway check-in. Unfortunately, this wasn't a huge win. But hopefully I will move on to maybe something a little bit different next. I'm not sure what that's going to be. A couple of my holds came into the library. I know I've got a sci-fi. I think I have a thriller. I have another thriller that I need to track down because my library doesn't have it, but I'd love to read it. So not sure where I'm heading next, but you will know once I know. And I will get you hopefully some more positive updates. I have made a little bit of progress in my reading of Korean authors and have a couple updates for you. First off, one that I found on a couple of lists, I was specifically looking for something sci-fi to add to my kind of genre mix, and this one came up, and looking at reviews, they weren't great. It has like around a 3, a little over a 3 on Goodreads, so I picked it up for my library. They only have a physical copy. There's not an audiobook copy. There's no ebook. So I went into it not wanting to spend money or credit on an audiobook until I figured out if I liked it or not. And one thing right off the bat, I feel like the synopsis for this one is a little bit screwy. The kind of man who has made a lot of investments in this world in artificial intelligence has passed away. And the book opens, we are reading from his wife's perspective. They had been married about 6 years. He had a cancer diagnosis, but basically was told that chemo and treatment would extend his life maybe a little bit, but if he did nothing, he had 18 months to live. And he made the decision, really without consulting her, that he wasn't going to go for any treatment. And she went along with that. He died at home. She was taking care of him. That's where we start with chapter 1. Chapter 2, we start reading from his perspective, and it takes a look back, but there's also some questions that get raised about artificial intelligence and what could that mean for him? What could he have done before he died with that? Because that was one of his main reasons for not going into treatment and losing time to treatment, because he wanted to get his research and his work to the best point possible before he could no longer work. The second chapter begins with a statement saying that he is already dead. I think he calls himself a dead human being. No, I am a dead Homo sapiens. My body has left me. So we are reading from his perspective after he's dead. And what exactly that means at that point, I don't know. The synopsis talks about how his widow has moved on. She has a new husband, but then she feels like someone's watching her, and she sees someone who looks like him, and a pair of shoes that would have fit him show up. And this is all going on, but the whole getting married to someone else gets really glossed over, or somehow I missed it, and I don't know how, because all of a sudden the things from the synopsis are happening, and I realize he must have been there, this new husband must have been there, but like she was actually broken up about him dying, so I feel like she would have waited a little bit to get remarried. I don't know, I got confused on that part. This is a DNF. I made it almost 50 pages in. It's not very long, but it's very character focused. We're not getting really to the answers that I would want. Troatrips. We got to see glimpses of a world that seemed interesting, like when they're questioning her about his death and trying to make sure that there's no concern because he died at home without witnesses, that she didn't do anything, that no one in the household did anything. We have detectives questioning her, but then also AI comes up with questions to ask someone to make sure that they didn't kill someone. So there's interesting things in here. It just isn't really moving forward, and there's nothing about it that's grabbing my attention really, so I can see why there are low ratings. So I decided, especially since this is one that I don't have an audiobook to push through with or anything like that, to go ahead and put this one down. And then I did move on to something that's going better. I know this hasn't been to the best start with this vlog, but I picked up another fairy loot book, and that is The God and the Gumiho, and this is by Sophie Kim. This is one that I actually had gifted from the publisher, I believe, but also received obviously this super pretty edition. On the back it says, he's a fallen god, she's a shape-shifting fox. They'll do anything to outsmart each other, anything except fall in love. So it is a romantasy. I think I might have this one on my romantasy bingo TBR. It starts off with our female main character, who is the Scarlet Fox, a Gumiho, who was once terrible, but she overate a while back, so she's really not looking to eat anyone else, and she's working at a coffee shop. She detests coffee. The smell of it, the flavor of it, the sound of it being made in a coffee shop. How she came to work in a coffee shop, I don't know. Then we are following our male main character, who is a trickster god exiled from the heavens. He is working as a detective. He's trying to do his good deeds by taking out demons and so forth that are plaguing humans, and he loves coffee. So I think I'm on his side so far. But anyway, he is very grumpy. He is very much on task. He needs to get this done. He has a set coffee order. Our female main character gets it wrong at every turn, sometimes intentionally, maybe mostly intentionally, and they don't get along at all. Through the course of things, she winds up working as his assistant at this detective work. I don't know if it's like a police station, but kind of that type of thing where she's been hired on to assist him. He can make his way through the number of demons he apparently needs to kill to get back in the good graces of the heavens. And I really like the dynamic between them, the bickering between them, the coffee love and hate between them. It's kind of fun too. And it's really a interesting and magical world. The author does have a note at the beginning, very clear about the fact that she has spent a lot of time researching kind of Korean mythology and so forth, but also has taken liberties here to make things a little bit more, I don't want to say interesting, not that the original source material is different, but to add a few more like relations between the god who exiled our main character and the main character himself and things like that. So I'm only about a third of the way into this one, but I do have to get going to work, so I wanted to do an update so I can keep reading this one. I do have some driving around today to do, and then hoping to get home a little bit early tonight because of things. I have an appointment in the afternoon, and then I can come home after that, hang out with Kylie, keep reading this one. So that is the plan currently, and we can go from there. I did just order a couple Korean snacks from Universal Yums. They're one of the kind of subscriptions that I have. They send out a different country box each month with different snacks in it. I've had the Korean box before and enjoyed a lot of the snacks, so I thought that would be fun. I don't know if it'll show up in time, but we'll see. I'm still trying to find maybe some different genres to wrap in. The horror kind of thriller that I wanted is really hard to find. My library doesn't have it at all, and it's just, this is really an eye-opening reminder. It's something I know, but it's a reminder that translated fiction doesn't get as much representation here in the bookstores, in the libraries, and so forth. And I live in a very heavily Asian-occupied neighborhood area of California. We've got all sorts of Asian restaurants in every corner. We should have a lot more translated Asian fictions in the library, and I feel like it's seeming like Korean in particular I'm struggling to find. So I'm going to keep looking to add to the TBR for this because I am really wanting to find some good wins, and we'll keep going and I'll update you later. Hello and good morning. Just standing here staring at my finger because I realized I got some sort of paper cut on it, and that's always really annoying. But that's not what we are here for. We are here for book updates. And this one, thankfully, is much more positive because I finished The God in the Gumiho and had a really good time with this one. I really like the dynamic between our two characters. I don't always love it when someone is lying to someone in a book and miscommunicating, although in this case it made sense because our Gumiho has a very shady past she is a very well known creature and she's keeping her hidden identity hidden to, not cause this fallen god to want to kill her as a demon, as someone who is dangerous to the human people and so forth. So that made sense. It did go a couple of predictable ways in terms of how things come out, but there were some turns to the story that I didn't expect. And I really did like the dynamic between them, the way they each impacted each other, and how just like the little inside jokes types of things, like the idea of coffee between the two of them runs through the story. I think that was really well done. The ending of this one builds to a really big kind of action-packed climax, which I enjoyed. And then it ends on some more difficult notes, maybe you would say, without being spoilery, and leaves me really wondering where the next book is going to go, which I do have a copy of the second book. I don't think I can fit it in right this moment, but it definitely is one I want to get to sooner rather than later. So this one was a big win. I think I'm giving it a 4, maybe even to 4.5, just because I had a really good time with it. Kylie just jumped off the back of the sofa, but I think she half jumped, half maybe slid off the back and wasn't 100% sure what just happened. Sorry, I got distracted. In my case, it's not squirrel brain, it's so much as it's Kylie brain. Wait, what's Kylie doing? Anyway, this was a big one. I'm very happy about it. I'm not sure if I had mentioned yesterday when I was filming an update, I had the plan in mind to go to the bookstore and see if I could find a book. Got to the bookstore on my way home last night, realized I didn't have my credit card on me that I needed, so that didn't happen. So that's okay. I have started another book though, and that is Welcome to the Hinam Dong Bookshop by Wang Bodum. I could be getting that wrong. I'm trying to take pronunciation from the audiobook, so please accept my apologies if I'm getting it wrong. But this is one that I saw making the rounds a lot. I think it was in the Goodreads Choice Awards from last year, maybe? I could be very off with that, but this is one I had seen around, and it's a bookish book, which I do tend to enjoy. It's a cozy book, which isn't always my vibe, but so far I'm getting on well with it. We are basically following a bookshop and the people who interact with this bookshop. I don't know that there's a huge plot behind this, but we have a main character who has opened this bookshop, didn't really have a lot of experience with it, didn't really know what she was getting into necessarily, but she's starting to realize the impact that a bookshop can have on a community, the way the customers can have an impact on each other and on the bookshop itself. She's coming up with ideas like doing author events and talking about what books get stocked in an indie bookstore and how some of the books that people really want that are popular books aren't things she's going to be stocking in this bookshop. And if it was about any subject other than books, I might not be as invested, but I'm finding kind of the discussions about bookshops and setting up bookshops and the different ways people use it as a resource and so forth to be interesting enough. I don't think it's going to be a huge 5-star win for me because it is a little too on the cozy side, but from that I am over 30% in, probably about a third of the way through actually, and that's not a huge distinction in a relatively short book, but that's okay. So far having a good time. It's very cozy. Definitely hope that when I am in Korea I will maybe stumble upon a bookshop or so. So with that, I'm going to keep reading in that one and still figuring out what's next after that. That was just a really easy one as I was wanting something to decompress. My library had the audiobook handy, so it was an easy one to pick up. So Kylie seems to be upset about something. I'm not sure what. I think she lost a toy somewhere she can't get to maybe. So I'm going to investigate that. I have to get ready to get going to work and keep reading. I'm joined by a Kylie. I left a battery in her bark collar and the battery ran down. And so when I got home tonight, she was very upset. She was hanging out in the garage, which is not her normal, and was whimpering and very upset. And I feel very guilty. So she's going to get spoiled tonight. She is not a dog that has to wear the bark collar a whole lot. Usually she's very redirectable. But when I take her to go see my dad, she and my dad's dog do get into it occasionally. And therefore I put the bark collar on her because she hates that thing. It has maybe gone off because she's barking like 2 or 3 times in her life of wearing it, and she has never had to have it go off more than once in a row because she just does not like it. It immediately corrects her and it just beeps. It doesn't do anything, like no shock, no vibration, no nothing. And yeah, so I feel very bad. Normally I'm smarter and I take the battery out after we get back home, but we haven't used it in a few weeks. So yeah. Anyway, other confession is that I'm filming this far too late, nearly a week late, but I forgot to come back and give you an update on Welcome to the Hyundong Bookshop. Did I get that name even close to right? I don't know. Kylie, do you know? She doesn't know either. I'm gonna put you down. You're getting wiggly. You can go run and play. Try to be a little quiet for a little bit. But anyway, I did finish this book. It lost me a little bit in the second half in all reality. I think it just kind of kept going a little bit too long for a book without a lot of plot, a lot of stakes. There was a kind of a romancy type relationship that develops in it that I just wasn't invested in. And there were definitely some messagey discussions happening in here that the bookshop becomes a venue where people can meet and discuss books. And one of those books led them on a discussion about workers and workforce and different things along those lines that just lost my attention just a little bit. Not that I disagreed with what was being discussed, but it just wasn't what I was really invested in, which was more the bookshop and so forth. I think it made a good point about bookshops being a community center and having a lot of impact on what people pick up. The owner of this bookshop was very much focused on trying to give space to new voices in writing and literature and so forth. And I do think it had a lot of good points to make. I think a lot of the writing was really beautiful. It just didn't entirely hold my attention the way I would have liked it to. So this one wound up being like a 3.5 or so. So jumping back in, I am going back in time just a tad to starting a new book I'm still in the middle of in the present moment. I'm confusing matters for no good reason. But anyway, I will see you again shortly with another book update. Checking in with you again. My Korean snacks have shipped, so at least should have a nice haul for you, hopefully before the end of the vlog. And I have started my next book, and the book in question is Mocha by Monica Kim. This is an advanced copy I have from Kensington Publishing, and it is due to come out on April 28th. This is one I've been super excited to get to, so reading it a little bit earlier than I typically do for my arc, but it fit the theme quite well. And this is, of course, the author who wrote The Eyes Are the Best Part, which was disturbing, and I enjoyed it so much. It had good social commentary going on in it, and I really had a good time with it, so I've been eagerly anticipating this one. The title Mocha refers to illicitly placed cameras that people do not know are there, where they are filming people in intimate moments, in inappropriate situations, and potentially leaking these videos or doing whatever they do with them. And this is how the book starts. We start by following one of our main characters who is an IT tech in a company, and he has installed in the bathrooms little mini cameras, so he's watching women on the toilet and describing what they look like with their underwear down. And it starts very disturbing, and I immediately started wondering, what did I get myself in for? This is a very slow burn type book, I will say that. Our female lead, our protagonist really, is a young woman working in this company, and she has been spied on, and that is going on kind of off to the side. We also see her getting into this relationship with this very wealthy man. He is the son of a wealthy man, more so than he is wealthy in and of his own right, but he has money to spare, money to spend on her. They start this relationship. It's a whirlwind of taking her to fancy restaurants and getting her fancy clothing, all of this. Meanwhile, our bathroom spy thinks he's in love with her and that they are going to be in this relationship because she's been nice to him once or twice. So things are, I assume, going to eventually come to a head with this. At this point, it has been a lot of meandering. We've seen more situations of cameras being used inappropriately and how that impacts people and their lives. I gather this is kind of a ongoing thing, potentially in Korea. This is set in Seoul, which is the main city that we are visiting. There have been mentions of places we are going to go, and that's always fun in a book like this, and hearing more about the culture, the food, the everything that's going on in Seoul. So far I would say I'm liking this. I'm not obsessed yet, and I feel like it's going to take off more in the second half. This is a horror, but the horror elements have really been mostly the human horrors of these people and these men in particular doing despicable things, having despicable thoughts, and women being belittled, and you miss work, it must be your time of the month. Those types of comments just are peppered throughout here and make me want to throttle someone. But really, I think it's engaging enough. We get little snippets of horror elements. Her sister, her older sister, died fairly young. Her parents have some level of blaming her or just not treating her the same. They wish their other daughter had lived, or at least that's how she sees it in her own mind. And every once in a while she gets these kind of visions tied to that pop up that have a little bit of a creepiness to it, or there'll be a door that just looked like it was closing from the inside, or little things like that add some atmosphere to it. But I wouldn't say it's really feeling like a horror so far. It's more so thrillery, I'd probably classify it as. So I'm really excited to see where this goes, if it ramps up the way I'm hoping it will, and I wind up flying through the second half. This is one I only have an ebook copy, so I am just reading it a little bit at a time when when I get a chance to actually sit and focus. It's not one that I want to kind of read a few chapters and then have to run off and do something and come back to. I want to have solid time to sit and read chunks of it. So hopefully I will have some good dedicated reading time soon to finish this one up and bring you some final thoughts. I am back for a couple of reasons. One being that I did finish up Molka, and I wanted to like this one so much more than I did. Unfortunately, it really lost my attention. The last half or so, the horror elements did ramp up a little bit. Not, I wouldn't say a ton, but they did become a little more prevalent. They still weren't the focus of the book. The focus of the book really was about this practice of filming and recording people, but mostly women, without their knowledge, putting these videos out there, and then not prosecuting the people doing it, not holding them accountable for what they had done. Instead, unfairly treating women trying to get revenge, and then the police taking them down harder than the men. There was a lot of mistreatment of women, a lot of just misogyny in general, and I think it had important messaging going on with it, but it wasn't ultimately super engaging to my mind, to my preference. And toward the end, I was really just trying to finish, and that's not really what I wanted out. So ultimately, the characters I had a hard time pulling for. Obviously, the men were all pretty despicable. The women, I think our main character was just naive in and of herself, and that doesn't mean that she deserved what happened to her. I'm not saying that at all. But I think her going about her revenge mission, when she eventually figures out what's going on, I think I would have preferred her to be a little bit more fierce, a little bit more intentional, maybe. I don't know. I don't feel like I can explain my feelings well on this one. So ultimately, I think this one is sitting around a 3, plus or minus, but that's where we're at with it. So I do have one more book that I want to get to, one I have high hopes for, although I had high hopes for this one too. So I will be back once I get going on that and let you know. I have, in the meantime, had one other DNF that I figured I'd tell you about. I was on the hunt for weird Korean sci-fi, or Korean sci-fi, I guess in general, was really what I was looking for. And then I saw a book and I went, that's weird. I need to read it. And I read 40% of it. It wasn't a bad book by any means. I'm pulling it back up because I remember the name, but not the author's name. The book in question is Walking Practice by Dolki Min. And it is a short novella, which is why I decided I would squeeze an extra book in here. And it is just like a 4-hour audio. So I didn't listen to it for super, super long. And it is from the perspective of an alien who gets stuck on our planet. And this alien, we are in their head, and they have the ability to change forms, mostly under their own control, but things, weird body parts just randomly pop out once in a while, freak people out, understandably. They go from male to female, depending on whatever situation they're in and what they need from the situation, and they exist on eating people. And they eat people by connecting with them on, I guess you'd call it dating app, hookup app, I don't know. They put themselves into a body that is pleasing to the person they're going to then go eat. They have sex with them and then eat them. And it's gory. It's interesting. It's definitely got some really interesting talking points in it. It talks about the social constructs of gender and how humans are so hung up on male versus female and different things. Well, they have the ability to just change back and forth. They can have a boyfriend one day, a girlfriend one day, and everything's hunky-dory for them. I just didn't need to hear about body parts and sex quite as much as I got in that 40%. It had a lot of interesting things to it, but in the grand scheme of things, are there other things I would rather be reading? Yes, so I decided to go ahead and put that down. So I didn't want to just mention it because it was interesting and definitely something different. I was looking for something a little different. That one definitely fit the bill. The cover for that one, which I will of course have up on the screen, is quite the cover. I'm just going to say that. So with that, I did also want to show off, I got a delivery from Universal Yums. This is a company that has a subscription box. I don't know if I had described it when I originally was talking about ordering it, but they have a subscription box. I've been a subscriber for them off and on for several years now, and each month they have a country and they send out a variety of snacks, combination of savory and sweet. Not too long back, there was a South Korea box, which I did really enjoy. There were several things from that I liked. They have a shop where you can buy extras of the things you enjoyed, so I did order up a couple extra South Korean snacks along with some other things. It came in a really oversized box. I wasn't quite expecting it to be that big. And being Southern California, some of the stuff I bought had melted, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. He's very excited by this box. It's been sitting here for ages. I know, buddy, but you're a little bit in the way. So So the couple of things that I ordered, they didn't have all that much left in stock, but they had these, which I really, really enjoyed. And they're basically the Korean take on churros. And they are sticks of dough with cinnamon sugar on it. Quite tasty. These say they are sweet and spicy tteokbokki flavor. I'm sure that's wrong. Wheat and rice snacks. They are almost like a corn chip kind of texture to them. I don't know exactly what they are, but they are tasty. They have a little bit of a spice to it, but as I recall, they weren't super spicy. And then keeping on the spicy theme, I also picked up some hot chili popcorn, which I remember I think I liked this as well. And then I also got one sweet. Let's see if I can find it. I got these gummy peaches. So these were just to add something a little sweet to my South Korean experience in here. And then just a couple little things that I picked up that were not South Korean. These Amarettini cookies from, I'm assuming, Italy. If I'm not mistaken, these I've ordered multiple times because I really enjoy them. There's these little Italian cookies. They are sesame and raspberry, I think they were. Those were really tasty. And then a more recent one, I think this was German, if I'm not mistaken, but it was a white chocolate with strawberry bits in it, which I didn't think I'd like. I'm not always a huge white chocolate fan, but those were really tasty. And they're back to being solid after being a bit mushy when it first came. So that's okay. So there is one other thing that I have left over from when I had the box originally because it scares me a little. And I figured maybe now is the time to try it. And that is a pine bud drink. Can't say I've ever, thought to drink a tree before. It is a Lotte brand, which I know that is a big brand in South Korea. We are going to Lotte World, the theme park, before the actual official tour takes off. So we are going to go ahead and pop this open and give it a try. I don't know that it's going to become a new obsession, but we'll see. What do you think, puppy? I don't want to break a nail in the process, so we are going to use my little crochet tools. Open this. Oh, goodness. It smells piney. What do you think? It smells fresh. That's something at least, right? It's not bad. It's got like a, almost like a Sprite type flavor and sweetness to it with a bit of pine tree mixed in. So not something I'm going to rush out and buy more of, but not the absolute worst either. The subscription I get, which is the bigger box, comes with one drink each month. And then I'm not a huge soda drinker in general. So they're usually just kind of a sip and try and not become obsessed with type of thing anyway. But I had to give a pine bud soda a try. So with that, I'm going to get back to reading, maybe, and I'll check in once I get going on my final book. It has been a day. Work was okay. I got a little bit of editing in, which was good. Ran a couple errands, which were good. Then came the commute home. And I left work late, which usually means traffic will be a little lighter, if anything. But no, it took me over an hour. It took me down weird routes, streets I haven't been on before. I always use Google Maps because you never know what traffic's going to be like. And it takes me all different ways on different days. But tonight was just a nightmare. So I am ready to put my PJs on and settle in. But first, I do have an update because I have started what is going to be the last book for this vlog. I am about 40% into All the World Can Hold by Jung Yoon. This is an author that I've really enjoyed in the past. I read their book Shelter, and it was like a literary thriller from what I recall, and I remember loving it. So I was really excited to get offered a copy of this audiobook from Simon Audio. This one is coming out on March 10th, so pretty soon as of the time I'm filming this, and I think pretty soon after this vlog goes live, but I'm still not entirely sure what order I'm posting things. I have too many balls in the air at the moment. But this one is following a few different POVs. It is set in the days following 9/11, and it is set on a cruise ship that is leaving the US behind and going to Bermuda. We are following a variety of people. We have a woman who's trying to host this cruise on the ship for her mother's birthday, and it's not really her thing, but she's trying to make the most of it. We have a young woman. She's the only female Black graduate from MIT, and she's fielding job offers, but when her roommate, who she doesn't really know all that well, offers to let her join her on this cruise. She's happy to go. It's not off to the best start for her because the seasickness is real. We're also following Doug, I think his name is. He is an actor who starred in a TV show that very much is like The Love Boat, but fictional. And he is on this cruise ship as one of the entertainers and not necessarily doing the best. There's a lot of mixed feelings amongst people. The idea of going off and having this fabulous time when something so tragic has just happened and the death tolls are rising and people are still missing. They talk about the fact that one of the co-stars Doug had is still back in the United States because his brother is a firefighter in New York and has not been found. And there's things like that throughout. There's a lot of relationship dramas and feelings and people behaving badly, whether it's because of stress or because they as people are just drama creators. And it's very kind of slice of life, but on a cruise ship that's not in its prime anymore, and a cast of characters who are really interesting. I think it's well written. I think it's a really easy one to listen to. In as much as the subject matter isn't exactly what I would call fun, 9/11 is never going to be that, but I think it's being handled pretty well so far. So with that, I'm going to keep going on this one, and it feels a little bit like this is the least Korean of the books that I've read. I don't know if that's weird to say, but we've got a large, very varied cast in this one. It's not set in Korea, but it is an author who was born in South Korea and was raised in the United States. So it definitely fit my criteria, at least for this. So I am excited to keep going. I'm excited to be reading something new from this author, and I will be back with final thoughts once I have them for you. I have now finished our final book, and overall I really did enjoy this one. It was a nice change of pace from what I've been reading in that it really wasn't a plot-heavy book. It was pretty slice of life in a way. It's, showing what these people are up to on their cruise, their daily activities, their interactions with other people on the cruise, with staff, etc., and each other, the people that they are traveling with. And really the focus is on their choices in life, their relationships in life, and what they left behind back in New York. This ship was originally meant to sail out of New York, and obviously with 9/11 happening, they moved the departure city. And that kind of choice that these people made to leave a world in absolute chaos and destruction and heartbreak behind and try to go off and potentially have a good time. Some of our characters have more or less of a tie to New York themselves, but really it's about their feelings and their relationships, and I think all of that was really well played out. I liked the variety that we got of characters in here and the way they felt differently. Also through their eyes, we see some characters who are handling things in much different ways. I would say our characters are relatively handling things well in a world that was difficult for anyone to figure out how to handle. But overall, I liked the way that this was all really well put together. The writing was really good. I felt like I could get into these characters' heads. Their stories were very distinct from each other, which I appreciated. You have discussions in here on characters who have relationships that others don't approve of. You have some difficult family dynamics. You have just a lot of things being worked out over time. And I think for a relatively shortish book, I want to say it's 350 pages, a normal length book, but considering there were 3 separate character stories being developed in here, I think it was really well done. As the story went on, we got more of the Korean influences, I think, than maybe I was picking up in the first part of it. Just one of the characters in particular is from a Korean family, the one that's celebrating the mother's birthday. We learn more about the fact that it's her mother's 70th birthday. That is something auspicious in Korean culture, it sounds like, and they're trying to follow some cultural things that they can do on the ship with their mother, and it doesn't all go according to plan, which I found that all really interesting as well. So with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap this vlog up here. I had a lot of fun exploring different stories, different mythologies, different authors from a Korean American type of background, and I am super excited in a few weeks to be getting on a plane to head to Korea. So let me know in the comments below, have you ever been to Korea? Do you have any tips for me? Have you read any of these books or have any others you'd recommend from Korean authors? I would love to hear all the things. And if you made it this far and you don't have anything to comment but want to let me know you are here, leave me some sort of ship boat emoji for all the world can hold. If you can hit that like button below, I would surely appreciate it, and subscribe if you're interested in hearing more about my Korean adventures, more of my book reviews, and more of my bookish content in general. But for now, I'll leave you here and see you real soon in a new video.